I'm James Holder. Welcome to Full Court Football 24. Quite privileged to be joined by former Oldham, Millwall, Blackburn Rovers, Bolton Wanderers, Oldham Athletic, Blackpool, Bradford City star, none other than Chris Taylor. How are you, Chris? You all right?
Not too bad yourself.
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. I hope everything's been all right with yourself during the lockdown and it's not been too stressful for yourself, mate.
I think it's been stressful for everyone, hasn't it, really? Don't think you can avoid it, to be honest, can you?
It's been testing times for everyone. I hope you've been all right with it all and stuff.
Yeah, no, just trying to keep busy, trying to keep fit, active, keep positive, all along them things, really.
I want to look back a little bit on your football journey today. I know you
Okay.
had spent a big portion of your career at Oldham. Being a local lad yourself and a big fan of Oldham must have been a huge honour for yourself to spend so much time at the club. Was you brought up in Oldham and around that way?
Yeah, all my family are from Oldham. I was born in Oldham. Never left Oldham really until I signed for Millwall, so that's all I ever knew. So obviously when I made my debut and then started to play regularly there, obviously it was a big honour and a big thing for my family and that. So it was really good.
Have you got a big family? Have you got a big family group and a big family?
It's a fair sized family, yeah. They're all pretty local around Oldham, so majority of them do support Oldham. So when I did play for them, when I had a good game, everything was good. But when I had a bad game, looking at it, they took it a bit personally as well. So I had to make sure I played well, just to make sure I got a bit of extra food on the plate at the end of the day.
What's your first memory, early memory of playing competitive football, whether that be for your school team or your local side? How did that initial involvement in the game start for you?
So what, just like at school and like really early on? Probably when I was at primary school, I used to play for the school then. I've got like early memories of just playing around with the lads and then play for the school team there, like, what would you be, 8, 9 year old? It kind of took off from there really. But I wasn't like one of, like there's a few players there that was already on the books at a couple of other clubs. Like I remember one was at Leeds, one was at Oldham, a couple was at Rochdale, I think. So yeah, I was never at like a club like that early on.
How did your involvement with Oldham start then? Was you scouted playing locally for a team?
Yeah, so basically I just then went to senior school, played for senior schools. And then I joined a team down the road from me, like a local Sunday League team. And I was there from 11 till 16. And then when I was 16 in my last year at school, I got scouted to come down to Oldham for a trial. And there was like 11v11, like the 11 lads that were already at Oldham, under 16s, and then 11 trialists. So we played a big game against the lads that were already there, and we drew 1-1, and felt like I'd done well enough in the game. And then 3 of us got kept on after that. 3 trialists, me and 2 other lads.
So did they offer you a youth contract or a professional contract?
No, it was just a youth contract to begin with, just to go into the youth team. So yeah, that's how then it started from there. Pretty late, really, compared to nowadays. Flipping out, people are scouting kids at like 5, 6, 7 year old. I think they're down at academy football and stuff like that. So to be like, at 16, it's probably a bit of a different route to what normally happens now.
You must have been buzzing though, as a local lad, to sign or be involved with your local club. It must have been an amazing thing for you at that time.
Well, yeah. So when I was younger, I always used to go to the games with my dad at times and with my uncles and stuff like that. So I knew the club very well, and anytime there's a big game on, you go down as well, and there'd be some good atmospheres down there when the bigger games are on. It all seems to happen so quick. Like 1 minute you're on trial, next minute you signed up, next minute you're in the youth team. It all just seems to kind of go within the blink of an eye, really. it all just seems to fall into place at times.
How did you handle the youth team football? Bearing in mind you haven't come from that academy setup, you haven't had that over-coaching background. How did you fit in and how did you handle it amongst the other players?
Struggled at first, definitely. I remember one time pre-season, and I only trained twice a week with the team here, but I played often enough, but I only trained like twice a week. I think it was out my first or the second day of pre-season. We did the running with the first team lads. Ian Dowie always wanted the youth team lads with the first team whenever possible. He would integrate as much as he could. So I was only 16, and we did like all the running. The first team did this one day, and I remember me and my friend called Wolfie, we got the bus home, and like as I got off the bus, so like I was head over this guarding fence. I don't know whose it was. I was just throwing up everywhere, and I just felt like I was going to faint. I really struggled. I think I had a day off after. I was that not used to the physical side of that much training in one day, and the day after you go again. I was not ready for that at the time. It was something new to me.
What was Ian Dowie like when you were a young player? Bearing in mind he's such a huge character, manager of the club. What was he like with you as a young player?
Good, very good. He would treat you how he would treat any first team player, I'd say. He wouldn't look at you down. He just expect you to work hard and try and impress him. And he would let you know definitely if he was impressed, and he would not be scared of then taking a young lad into the first team lad if he'd impressed him and give him game time. He was very good at that. So you always felt there was some kind of pathway there.
Do you remember the day you signed a professional contract at Oldham?
Yeah, I do, yeah. It was a lifetime ago, to be honest. 2000 and, what was it? 2005, I think, 6?
2004, I think.
2004, even? Crikey, that is a long time ago. Yeah, so I went on loan to Barrow when I was 18, and I thought that was the way that they was going to get rid of me, because I've seen it happen to other lads there in the youth team. So in your last year in the youth team, I've seen a couple of lads who went on loan to Barrow, the same thing, and then at the end of the season they released them, and then they went to play kind of that level football after, like conference South football. And then when I come back from Barrow, they wanted to take me because it did go quite well, the loan spell. And the youth team manager at Oldham says, well, if you want a contract at Oldham, then I think for the next few months, I think you stay here and at least give it your best shot. So then I played a reserve game straight after I come back, done quite well. And a lad gets injured for the first team the week after. And then there was like whispers going around that the manager was thinking of starting me. I hadn't been on the bench or anything at this point, or even been involved with the first team. And he was saying, I think I'm going to give him a start. And we had Notts Forest on a Wednesday night. You're like a massive club for someone like me when you're growing up, all their history. And I found out like 2 days before that the lad's injured that I'm playing, which was again a bit surreal. And then I signed professional contract just before my debut as well. So again, it just all seems to happen so quickly, and in the moment you don't even have a chance to take anything in. And I made my debut then the next day. The lad weren't fit, and I made my debut.
How did you play against Forest that day?
Without trying to big yourself up too much, yeah, I've done well. Got man of the match, won 3-0. Kind of as good as it gets really for debut, I'd like to think, yeah. And I think Gary Megson, the Forest manager, I think he got sacked the next day, I think, after that.
You contributed to Gary Megson getting the sack.
No, not being fair to.
Massively.
No.
See, after that then, were you travelling with the first team quite a lot? Were you then breaking into the first team quite regularly?
after that, I played every week. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it was just there were no going back. It weren't like weird. There weren't like a spell where he had one good game, let's ease him off a bit or whatever. It was just the next one, the next one, the next one, and then after that was just you just starting week in week out. There was just whether I'd say after a certain point, it didn't even matter if you was like carrying a bit of an injury. Sheridan would just put me out there, keep chucking you out there. Are you fit? No, I've got a grade 2 hamstring. Oh, don't matter, you'll be all right. Like that was kind of how it was. And unless you couldn't physically run, I think I was going to be playing week in, week out.
What's it like playing for Oldham and living in Oldham? Being a regular first teamer and living where you play?
Yeah, it's just all a bit weird. Do you know what I mean? It just all happens like so fast. Like you're just loving every minute, every day. Like you're just going in, doing what you wanted to do since you was a kid. Well, obviously, I still was young, so. And once I got into the first team and playing week in, week out, literally games just coming thick and fast. We had some big games in some teams in the league like Forest, Leeds, Swansea's. There were some Sheffield Wednesdays, Sheffield United. There were some massive teams in there. So like they weren't like, and obviously them kind of clubs attract always big crowds, which then as a young lad or any player really is kind of they're the games you want to play in.
See, when you're a young lad breaking into the team at Oldham, who are the big characters in the changing room? Who were the big voices in the team?
Yeah, back then there's some good characters like Sean Gregan. I don't know if you've come across him. He had a fantastic career, massive centre half, massive personality, wouldn't hold back of what he thought of you, good or bad. Luckily, for me, it was more good than bad, but I've seen it on the other side that if some lad weren't doing enough, he'd make sure he knew about it. And I wouldn't have liked to have been that young lad that was getting that kind of grief. Andy Liddell was massive for me when I was growing up. He was a winger on the opposite side. He was coming towards the end of his career, but like he was like 35 and he was still fit as a fiddle. Delivery on him was unbelievable, and he was just always giving me bits of advice and I always listened. And he's someone that had been there, done it. And I think every person around that team then just kind of helped you gear up to having a long career in the game.
As always, at any club, players get on, players don't get on. Have you seen players lose their tempers over silly things and a lot of sort of kick-offs in the changing room and stuff?
It doesn't happen as much these days. I'd definitely say that it's definitely come away from the game a little bit. Definitely in my earlier mid-20s, there used to be quite a lot. Yeah, seeing people get up and just there would be an argument. Next minute, someone's decked someone. Then there's claret everywhere, and then next minute it's just there's full on 6, 7, 8 people getting involved. Yeah, I've seen quite a few things go on in the change room.
See, at Oldham, what was the life like amongst the players, like the nightlife? Because I know you guys aren't too far away from stuff. What
nightlife in Oldham?
Yeah.
Well, obviously I enjoyed it because I'm from there and I knew quite a lot of people in Oldham. So every time I go out, there'd be friends out and whatnot. So I always let my hair down as often as I could. But the nightlife, if you was an outsider coming into Oldham, you might have a slightly different opinion of if it was good or not. So yeah, I liked it because I think I'm a bit biased from the area. But.
Yeah. Have you seen other players join the club, whether they be from England or another country, and have a bit of a culture shock joining Oldham?
Not in my time, no. I know now there's probably more foreign lads at the club than previously when I was there. So there was a couple of instances when Roberto Mancini's son, when he was City manager, he had his son on loan, and he wasn't happy with the difference in culture from coming from his background. He would never eat the food with him. I said it weren't good enough for him. Just walk past it and put his face. So, he just said, "What is this? What is this?" every day. And then I'd just pick up a chicken wing or something and say, "This is for you. It's nice. Try it." And he'd just say, no chance." He'd just get his coat on and just leave.
Someone's trying to give him a Cornish pasty or something. He weren't having none of it.
Oh, someone tried to give him some pasta, some chicken, or some bangers and mash, whatever it was. He weren't having none of it. It weren't good enough for him. He used to tickle me, man.
Yeah, brilliant. How many managers did you have during your time at Oldham? How many managers did you see come and go?
So first I'd Ronnie Moore. I had him for maybe a season. Obviously, he'd been around the block, done very well in his time in managing. A bit old school. Well, no, he was one I gave him a Davies, so I always was very cool. So I had John Sheridan for about 3 or 4 years, which again was a fantastic time. I loved every minute of working under him. Again, very different. Lots of what could I say? Shenanigans went on. Like we'd have lots of we'd be doing well on the field and then off the field, and make sure socially always be doing stuff together. Just very different to how it is now, really. I don't think lads nowadays go out and do as much as what they used to do.
What sort of activities and stuff would you guys be doing? What sort of team bonding stuff? How would it all work?
So it could be anything from it could be a meal turned into drinks to a night out. It could be these books. We'd go down to the Greyhounds at like tea time, and that'd turn into a night out. He might say, "Oh, have the day off, go up to Newcastle, go on and let your hair down on a Tuesday," or something. It could be bowling. It could have been anything. Like it was just always like socially doing stuff as a group. Do you know what I mean? Whereas nowadays it's kind of like people just mix one or two and then that's it. Like you just keep themselves to themselves, unfortunately.
Yeah. Was there a big card school amongst the players at Oldham in particular? Was there a lot of gambling going on? Was there a lot of players having side bets on stuff?
I'd say like I think in most clubs there's always like a little card school that goes on in the coach. Again, like I'd say, so when I was at Bradford last year, people are playing like different kind of card games. It's like playing Uno and stuff like that. It's just completely different. Whereas like 10 years ago when I first started, people were playing free card brag and stuff for money. And when I went to different clubs, like it could be for different amount of monies, and sometimes it could get a bit silly, the money that we're getting handed over. So you prefer it if it was friendly-ish and people won't be falling out with everyone if you lost a lot of money, which could easily happen.
Really? Have you seen players fall out over bets and money and it become a bigger thing? And yeah,
massively. If I don't know who it was, one lad, for example, lost X amount of money. Next minute, he'd be like saying, "Look, you did the other cards properly, or it's a false deal." Or, like that's how heated it could get. And next minute, like lads are falling out. Say once a lot of money starts getting handed over, people start falling out very quickly, and the friendships start not becoming friendships. But it's good I think it's good to play for a little bit of money, but just keep it more sensible.
Makes sense.
But
you extended your contract with Oldham, so you must have really been enjoying your football and really flourishing at the club at that time. Yeah,
no, it was. again, like I'm just literally when I signed the new 3-year deal, just in the moment, like just the football was bang on. I was loving life off the pitch. Off the pitch, it was like things were good, things were fun. Like my football was good, so I didn't want to leave. But like, obviously, then if you look back, when some of the teams that got mentioned that were interested in you, would they have left now or earlier? I don't know. Maybe not. Would my career gone a different path? I don't know. But literally at the time, I wasn't really interested in even asking the question to leave when I was that happy and doing what I was doing at Oldham from week out.
What clubs were interested or rumoured interest before you signed your contract? I know there was a lot of talk about Leeds. What other clubs?
They were massively interested and all that. And I know there's such a huge club, and obviously when you see it getting mentioned, and then when you're getting told that they're offering X amount for you, I don't know. Just at the time, I just never really took it serious. I just thought the way it works, I thought that if the club wanted me out, they would accept and I would leave. Like that's what I thought would happen, not for me to kind of go in there and say I want out, make it happen. Like I want to leave. So because I wasn't really going in there and saying them things, maybe the club then thought that they had a bit more time to try and get some more money out of Leeds, but they never really come to an agreement. I don't think.
You re-signed your 3-year contract. You're enjoying life playing for your hometown club. You must really be very consistent with your performances. And then, how long was it then before Millwall and other clubs started to come in for you?
So I signed the 3-year deal when I was like 22, maybe 22 I was. And then like you're playing, I think by this point I'd played like 100 games in a short space of time. And then over the next 3 years, you're talking probably around 50 games a season, which is quite a lot, and adding up very quickly. So then by the time all them years were passing, Oldham was then wanting to extend by another 3 years when I was about 25, 24, 25. And by this point, I just didn't know. I'd been there for 6, 7 years now, playing first team football. And I think by this point, it started to trigger me that if I can get the chance to test myself higher, then I probably want to, else I won't get it later on. So that kind of crossed my mind, either that I was hoping we would get promotion with Oldham and I would sign a new deal there longer term so that it would be in the Championship, or I'd have to think about maybe leaving at the end of that contract and to test myself at the next level.
Millwall was your destination. The Den in South London, huge reputation, huge club. Can you talk me through that transition of making the switch from Oldham? And I'm guessing you moved down south as well, which will be the first time you moved away from Oldham. Talk to me about everything that went along with that.
Yeah. Oldham, I'd made up my mind with about 6 months of my contract left that I think I was leaving. Oldham, they was trying to offer testimonial for my next deal. They did everything they could really to keep me there, which obviously, in a way, it almost worked. I did want to stay, but I just always thought if I didn't test myself now at Championship level, then I might never get to do it again. I don't know when the time will come again. So with 6 months left, I got a phone call off Kenny Jackett. He wanted to meet me in a hotel in Watford. So I went down to meet him at this hotel in Watford, and we must have spoke for about an hour and a half. Just asking me like kind of what's going on, because in that season, my last season at Oldham, my form dipped a little bit, and I think it's just because my head was just a bit all over the place with everything that was going on. So he was just asking questions like asking why my form had dipped. Do I think I can compete at the Championship? Like, what do you think of Millwall? And I knew I played a lot of games against Millwall, and at the Den scored scored a few times, scored at home a couple of times against Millwall. So I'd always had a good kind of reputation against them. And then the fans I knew from my time there was always very, very lively and something that I enjoyed playing in them kind of atmospheres. So I just said, I said like, Millwall's a place that doesn't kind of intimidate me. It's kind of something that I'd be excited to kind of be a part of. And literally by the end of the conversation with Kenny Jackett, he then laid out a contract which was just out of the blue. I didn't expect that at all. I thought it was going to be like more of a conversation. And basically just said that if you want to sign for Millwall, here's the contract, here's a week. If you're not signed in a week, it's gone. So he kind of put the onus on me to how much do you really want it to be a Millwall player. And Major kind of said I've dealt with Kenny before and that he doesn't mess about. Like if he says it's a week and then it's gone, it will be gone next week. So I spoke with the family for quite a bit at length about me going to London, and it was quite a quick decision after speaking with him. That's where I wanted to go. So I agreed it like a week or so after.
Was there any pressure from your family to stay at Oldham? Like, bearing in mind a lot of them are lifelong Oldham fans. Was there any?
Yeah, I think the mum didn't. She didn't want me to leave. I don't know if it was for her own reasons that she didn't know how I would find London, wanted me closer to home still. They're all Oldham fans. So I say she was probably the only one. But I wouldn't say, at the end of the day, they all just said, whatever makes you happy, like, we'll be behind you. So there wasn't any major pressure to sign Oldham again. So, and they all gave me a blessing to sign.
How did you handle life in the big smoke? Bearing in mind you've lived in Oldham predominantly most of your life. How did you handle that transition of moving to a bigger city?
Just completely different to anything I've been used to. I was like a fish out of water for the first few months. Honestly, I was down London and then I was enjoying the training but like for the first month or two, I just couldn't wait to get a train back for a day or two.
Really?
Honestly, I was just a little bit homesick at first, probably the first month or two. But once I got settled with the lads, I got to know the lads proper and got to know the club proper, and then where I was living. Honestly, it was one of the best times I had in my life down there for the first time, definitely.
What was Kenny Jackett like as a man? What was he like as a manager? How did you get on with him?
Yeah, very, very good. He's just very demanding. He's just a winner. Winning's just everything to him. Like sometimes he doesn't kind of matter how he gets a win. Whether it's a good performance, bad performance. Winning is crucial to what he's about, and he would push everyone very hard every day, I found.
Who was the big voices in the Millwall changing room? Who was in charge of what was going on amongst the players?
It'd be quicker to tell you the quieter voices than the big voices.
Really?
Obviously, there's David Ford. You could hear him from 3 miles away if he spoke. You didn't want to get a shouting off him. I had a couple of times off him. Wow, it's like a lion, like something roaring at you. It's just you get spit all over your face when he's shouting at you. Then you got Alan Dunn, who's just proper Millwall through and through. He just, any defeat or any bad performance, he felt like he took control. So he would let the lads know that his standards were nowhere near good enough, whether he was playing or not, whether he was on the bench or stands. He would be more than happy to share his opinion in the change rooms.
Is there any bust-ups with Kenny Jackett and the players during your time at Millwall?
I'm trying to think. There probably was, but like, there's none that are really like coming to mind straight away. Kenny wouldn't be happy. He would have a meeting with you or say something after a game that you probably wouldn't like to hear, but I don't remember anyone like squaring up to him. I think there was a couple of arguments amongst players and amongst when Kenny was there, but I don't remember any like fisticuffs or anything like that amongst that. But he would happily let you know if you weren't good enough, or he would happily drag you off. Because as soon as you haven't played well enough, that whether that was 10 minutes or 45 minutes, he would happily take you off at any point in the game.
What was his training sessions like? Would he take the sessions himself, or were the sessions undertaken by the coaches?
Probably say the majority was with Joe Gallen. Joe would take most of the sessions. He was very good. Made the sessions very enjoyable. Whereas then Kenny would come in and you knew straight away it'd be a different kind of session. He would want the intensity. He'd just be all about the intensity. If you weren't pressing, he'd make you press. If you weren't running, he'd make you run until you did run. He was just basically just putting as much pressure and as much kind of intimidation on the opposition that we could get hold of, really. And wanted us to play in the attacking third as much as we can. That was another one. He didn't like all this tippy-tapping at the back stuff.
Would you have extended your time at Millwall had Blackburn Rovers not come in for yourself? Or was it your decision to leave?
No. Like again, it's just a strange one how it all happens. Like obviously Millwall fans and people at Millwall just looks like that I was there and just got off, and it just wasn't the case really. It was after about Christmas time, it was all agreed that I'd signed a new 2.5-year deal with Millwall. But I don't know. Remember, I got injured against Brighton, maybe before Brighton. I played a few games with an injury. My knee was really sore. But I just carried on playing until literally when we played Brighton away, my knee was hanging off. And I got it scanned and I had some damage to my knee that would keep me out for 2 to 3 months. So Kenny said, it was like Christmas time, he said, you get yourself up north for like 2 weeks. You can't do much anyway. He just said basically your contract to me still stands. So like I want you here. That was it. So I said, okay, no worries. I'll go home and hopefully after Christmas I'll get it signed. But the club was a bit worried that I think they dished out a contract or two before to lads that had been injured and wanted to keep. And I think one lad, I can't remember his name. He was a centre half, mixed race lad. And he never really got back fit, and they gave him a new deal with him. So I kind of understood why my deal, I couldn't sign it because they wanted to see me back fit first, before I signed. But then, as soon as I got back fit, the FA Cup run come about. There was literally game after game. There was just no time to. It didn't really get spoken about till towards the end of the season. And then by this point, like a few other clubs realised that I was out of contract and put me in a position where I had a decision to make.
You opted to sign for Blackburn Rovers. Massive club, massive history. Yeah. Who was the manager at Blackburn Rovers when you signed initially?
Gary Bowler was the manager initially. I spoke to him previously before I signed, and I just, like my family said about signing for Millwall again, my heart was kind of set on signing for Millwall. So in the Championship, what kind of club would it take me to move? And I said probably, I just looked at it and said probably, it'd be only probably Blackburn that would be one of them. Would just come down from the Premier League, massive club, close to home. And then when I found out they were interested, it was kind of like fucking, and I seen the facilities that the club had and the size of the club. I just thought, wow, I was so happy at Millwall, but then is this another opportunity that I can't kind of let go? Like it was just patch 22 again. I just felt like I couldn't get away from signing for such a massive club near home.
As you mentioned, Blackburn Rovers had just been relegated from the Premier League. Was there still a crossover where they had a lot of their big players still on big wages in Blackburn playing in the Championship.
Yeah. In my first 6 months, they were kind of clearing a lot of them lads out. It was kind of the process of, I think they must have paid off a lot of players during that first 6 months that they didn't want there. That was on masses of money as well. I don't know what kind of agreements they come to, but Blackburn must have lost a lot of money getting rid of some of the boys that were there.
Who would have been there initially when you first joined?
So you would have had the likes of David Dunn, Paul Robinson, Leon Best, Dixon Atuhu, some big names like that were on a lot of money. They've all played Premier League for such a long time. They probably didn't want to come down to the Championship, and probably Blackburn didn't want them in the Championship on such the amount of money they was on. So it was kind of a sticky process for the club to go through, I think.
What did you think of Ewood Park the first time you walked around it?
Just thought it was just like a fortress. It's just huge, isn't it? 3 stands, all double tiers, walls probably just short of 40,000. I just thought I couldn't believe that this is where I'm going to play my football week in, week out. Kind of felt like as if put myself down a little bit, then maybe it was good enough to be here. Do you know what I mean? But then obviously you got a point to prove that, to show people that you're good enough to be amongst players that I'm training now with players that have got appearances in the Premier League for year after years. So you've got to train amongst them and different type of attitudes and different type of mentalities that I've been used to at Millwall.
Were you straight in the team at Blackburn Rovers?
No, I would say it took a good few months to get a good run in the team. So I was coming off the bench quite a lot to begin with. Then I kind of got a bit of a run in the team. I would say during my time at Blackburn, it was very much, I was either sub or like playing a lot. It wasn't much in between.
What was the nightlife and social life like at Blackburn Rovers? Would the players meet together a lot to go out for drinks? How would that side of it work?
A little bit. We did socialise a bit, but we probably socialised more than you think. But because I compare it to my time at Millwall in terms of socialising with the lads there and going out on nights out, where it was just a couple of times a week, every week. You thought you feel like once a week in a lot, but it's probably about normal. Like, but Millwall was just a different group of lads, different kind of mentality. Where whenever we had the opportunity to go out and have a drink and a social, we would.
Mm. Do you think you play your best football when you're closer to Oldham? Do you think you hit peak form for Blackburn?
No. I'd definitely say my form was better at Millwall than at Blackburn.
Interesting.
That's why probably Blackburn signed me on the back of the FA Cup quarter-final games, which we played Blackburn twice and we've done well twice and managed to beat them. And I think on the back of the performances there, I think that's what kind of got Gary Bowyer's attention to take me to Blackburn.
You scored your first league goal for Blackburn Rovers against Brentford. Was that quite a memorable moment for yourself?
Yeah. I remember it well. I think the ball just kind of landed to me in the box. And I've missed a few chances before, and I was kind of thinking, when you miss a few early on at a career at any club, you kind of think, is it going to happen? Is it coming? Is it not? But then you can wait a lifetime. I've seen lads, after they've missed a couple of early chances, lads that a previous club have scored loads of goals. It just affects your confidence massively. And I've seen this one, it's almost like it fell to me in the box and I've slide tackled. It's almost like a tackle. And I've just seen it hit the roof of the net. And teeth after it went in with yeah, I remember it well. Like,
See, after you get that first goal, does your form go up? Does your confidence go up as a player? Do you feel more settled, especially if you're playing in an attacking position?
yeah, it's a massive relief off you to get a goal for the first goal for any club. Not that my performances weren't good previously. It's just that goal just helps build even more confidence. That once you start scoring goals, you get looked at completely differently, even more so than just he's a guy that's playing well, but he's not really scoring goals. So, and then once one comes, like they say it's like buses. Like another one or two come after, and every time I scored one, then the next game you probably score again. Like, and then you go on a bit of a run, and it's like not scoring. You don't score for one, you don't score for two. And next minute you look at how many games you play, it's 15, and then still haven't scored yet. And everyone's asking you, are you going to score at any chance? What's going on? And you just open, just one hits you and just goes in.
3 brilliant years at Blackburn Rovers. Toward the back end of your third year, did you fall out of favour? Was that the reason for the loan move back to Millwall?
Yeah, so there was a new manager come in. Paul Lambert came in, and he was a breath of fresh air to begin with. I think we won the first 5 games under him. I think I played majority of them games, and I was in my last year of my contract, but I only needed like 2 or 3 games to trigger another year. And I always thought it was on the back of my mind that if the manager wasn't having you, would he play the game? I never had that in my contract before, where you play games to trigger another year. And then on my 3rd game left to go, we played West Ham in the cup, and I actually played quite well, and we were doing quite well. But I got sent off after about an hour, and I just knew the managers weren't happy with me at all. Like, I think he just felt like it was just a couple of bad decisions from himself, like a couple of bad tackles. And the next day I come in, he just said there's an opportunity to go to Millwall. I think you should take it.
Wow.
And like, I just said that kind of about the games, and they didn't really get discussed massively. I just kind of said yeah, I'm obviously from previous time I'm more than happy to go, but yeah, so that was that. We didn't really speak much about the 2 games that I had to trigger another year. So obviously I wasn't in his plans.
Do you think the red card had some bearing on that, or do you think that was another reason, cop out to sort of not give you the 2 games you needed to extend your contract?
I don't know. I don't know. Because when I was playing, I was doing quite well. So, and he was happy enough with me. But yeah, whether it was going to happen or not, like regardless, I don't know. But I think the red card might have just and the fact that Millwall was really after a winger because Jed Wallace had gone back to his club. I think he'd gone back to Wolves. I think it just made sense at the time for both parties that if they was going in a different direction, I'd go on loan to Millwall.
In your second stint at Millwall, was it kind of like getting the band back together? Did you feel that the same way about the club and the same nightlife, the same banter, the same camaraderie as your first spell at Millwall?
No, it was different, but it was still like good banter and still very much I enjoyed the second time just as much as the first time. But it was probably Beavers was still there. I'm trying to think of the lads that were still there. I think Sean Williams might have been there. But yeah, it was different kind of banter, but yeah, still had the Millwall feel about it, I'd say. The team spirit and what Neil Harris was doing there, I felt early doors that he was going down a similar path to what Kenny was doing previous. So I slotted straight in pretty much straight away when I went back down. the lads were really welcoming. Probably a younger bunch than when Kenny was first there.
See, when your contract expired, was there no talk of renewal? There was no offer of renewal of your contract before you then went on and signed for Bolton. So I know Phil Parkinson, you was his first signing at the club. So there was no offer of a renewed contract.
Yeah, no, there was talks of me to stay at Millwall after the final. But they didn't really materialise. I just probably wish they'd have pushed it more to get it done over the line. And then Bolton showed an interest. And I knew they'd be up there in League One, challenging. Kind of just went for that, yeah. Probably do regret not pushing to get something done at Millwall the second time. I felt the first time was probably a bit more out of my hands, whereas the first time I probably could have done a bit more.
You decided to make the short trip to Bolton. What was Phil Parkinson like as a manager? How did you get on with him initially?
It was tough experiences. I've got no issue with the gaffer at all. He's a very good manager, very demanding hard work. I'd say again, similar to Benny Jacket, of what he demands. I turned up there in not the best of shape. After the final, had a bit of a good summer. Little did I know how hard the gaffer worked. Lads even more than I've ever experienced probably before. And it just never kind of clicked with me him and Bolton, which was a shame. I did play quite a few games early on, but I just never really got settled there at all.
Things didn't work quite well for you at Bolton. Talk me through the decision to sign for Blackpool, and how did everything work out for you with that move?
That was like an easy decision. My previous manager was there. They'd been promoted the year before from League Two. And I knew the gaffer, the way he was doing that, he was always looking to progress and always looking to improve. I knew that this could be an opportunity. Again, we get out of League One with some of the players he had that I knew previously. Obviously, there was a bit of a mad times with the fans and the owners at Blackpool, which might have been holding them back a little bit with not getting any fans there because they wanted the owners out and stuff like that. But it didn't. The gaffer always tried to then use that as a positive spin, to try and use it in our advantage. That when teams used to come to Blackpool, that when there was no fans there, the opposition straight away for Connect, like no one really used to playing in front of no fans at the time until now. I know with all this going on, we kind of used it to our advantage for the home game, definitely.
It's strange as a player. First time you've experienced it, certainly, where the fans are that determined not to watch the team. Must have been strange. Must have been very strange.
I just thought they must have a real passion and agenda to not watch their own team. It must, because deep down they must be really wanting to just go get in the stadium and watch the team. Because the atmospheres of Blackpool, I played there mainly against when it's full stadium, and the atmosphere is fantastic. And you can tell all the fans are really enjoying being in there, watching the game, enjoying the experience. It's a different kind of atmosphere, but it's like a bit more a carnival atmosphere. They've got the big drummer at the top of the stand, and everyone's getting involved. So for them all to just be staying away just because they're not happy with the owner, and then obviously it went on and on and on for years. So it was a very strange one.
How did it play out for yourself at Blackpool?
on better, to be honest. It was okay. Just probably didn't maximise the opportunity there and didn't get as much of a chance there as what I probably felt it could have done. And I felt like the gaffer left after one game.
One game. I was going to say that. With Gary Bowyer's departure, did that make your tenure at the club a lot tougher?
Yeah, because obviously then you've got the assistant then come in whose views might have been totally different to the gaffers on you and someone else on tactics and everything. So it's a completely different then environment that you're working in terms of someone with a different vision and different idea. So and then with him it didn't always go to plan. So then obviously then frustration creeps in when you're not getting the game time that you kind of feel you should. And with the team we had, I felt if Gary had stayed, then I felt there'd been a very good chance that would have been in the top two. That for sure.
Is it frustrating at the age you was at then that you're not playing regularly? So I'm guessing you're sort of enjoying your football, but you know in the back of your mind you've got to be playing consistently.
I think so, yeah. I think the biggest frustrating thing with anyone probably is I've been that used to playing games and games and games, and then you go to a spell where you're not playing. I didn't play nowhere near as much in the Bolton spell. Then at Blackburn, probably played a bit more, but again, not as much as you're wanting to. It's probably something that I've just not been used to, like being kind of not the first name on one of the first names on the team sheet. Then you're a sub, like, then you've got to wait patiently for the lads to have an injury or to not play well, or then it is a bit frustrating at times to wait for your chance and opportunity. But I feel like now kind of understanding that as you get older, you do need to have that bit more patience, and I'm not going to play 50, 60 games a season anymore. Probably if I get 20 to 30 to 40, whatever it is, on at least a good quality games, and you'd rather that than 50 and 20 are not so good and 20 are good, if that kind of makes sense.
After you parted company with Blackpool, it seemed like you was in the football wilderness for a little while. Manager Gary Bowyer stated that he couldn't believe that no other club had picked you up in the time that he managed to then sign you for Bradford, which I find quite astonishing that a player of your experience and calibre didn't immediately walk into a club. Or can you talk me through that period of your life?
It just doesn't, it was something like, it's probably like what a lot of players go through, and then at that time it was kind of my time where like no one really took a massive interest or whatever for whatever reason, and it's kind of, you shell shocked like at times, like with you're waiting for the phone daily, like to go, and nothing's kind of happening, and no one's offering you a contract, no one's trial. Kind of hard to explain into words, really. How you just feel like stunned, you just feel shell shocked, like everything you've done all your life, and suddenly now you're not doing it. Like it's a tough one to explain.
Mm. Gary Bowyer signed you for Bradford City on a short-term deal initially. Was there a problem with your registration? Was there something that had happened, whether you're a trialist at somewhere that meant you couldn't play full games? Can you speak to me about that a little bit?
Yeah, so obviously when you haven't got a club, like I haven't got a club now, like without all the virus stuff going on, you've probably been out in the club training and keeping fit, but clubs are wanting you to keep the numbers to a minimum to restrict the spread of the virus, and I get that. So, but last year I was at Barrow for training for about a month or two, keeping fit. Manager was really looking after me, letting me train there as much as I wanted. And then he said, "Oh, there's a game for you. Like we're putting on a game, so a good chance to get some fitness for you. So I just said, okay, yeah, like, you're not going to say no to. It's the one thing that you kind of need before you sign for a couple of games would be ideal, not to get preparation ready. I played a game for Barrow at Barrow, thinking there was no issue, like, and it was just a friendly to me. But when I signed for Bradford, I found out that it was like a FA registered game that counts towards that I'd be registered for Barrow. That it means that I'd be registered for Barrow, that I can't sign for Bradford, which is something I wasn't like aware of. I don't think Barrow was aware of.
It's just a hugely unfortunate set of circumstances, isn't it? I'm sure Barrow wouldn't have initially done something to stop him from playing, and just very.
They were helping me to get fit, so that when the time come when you signed for a Bradford or whoever it was, you're ready to go straight in. Like you don't need 3 or 4 games to kind of catch up. Might need 1 or 2 to shake off a bit of rustiness. So it's kind of them asking me to play this game to get some fitness up, and kind of backfired on me a bit.
Because this is quite different from some of the other players we had on. You're still actively playing football. So this takes us to where we are right now. As well as looking for a club, it's probably one of the worst times you could, as a footballer, not be attached to a football club. With all the virus restrictions, with all the lack of fans in the club, it must be a real tough period for yourself to have come through all this and not having the stability of having that contract already signed. How have you handled it all and everything that's been going on?
Like you say, there's so much going on. There's so much going on in the world now that you've just got to be positive. Like, I think my experience last year has made it how I am today a lot more easier, because I've already been in that position once now.
Right, yeah.
I kind of know how this works, that you have to keep fit, you have to look after yourself, and clubs now, the window doesn't shut till, I think, 3rd of October. So I think clubs have been now biding the time until that shuts, and then looking at the lads that are free agents. That's kind of how it works, I think, now. And especially, I'm not a young person anymore, so you kind of maybe last pick or whatever you want to call it now. So you just have to stay a lot mentally prepared, physically prepared as best as you can to be ready when the club does ring.
If the opportunity came up for you to go to Greece or to go and try yourself in Thailand,
Where's Greece come from? Thailand?
Would you take an opportunity like that, like to go and try your hand at a different league, a different culture, a different way of life?
I'd definitely be open to anything. Yeah, my door's always open to going abroad if something were to go abroad. But obviously, again, if you're talking about these kind of times with everything going on, like no one's really, I'd imagine, going in and out of countries too often. I don't know what kind of opportunities there are out there. So, yeah, it's a strange one. It's a strange one, isn't it, for everyone? I think that's the best thing you can say about it.
I've got a lot of empathy for your situation, I really have, because it's hard enough trying to get a club, trying to get a job normally, or trying to play an active role in a football club. With all this going on, it's just no one knows where they stand, no one knows what's going on. So it must be quite mentally draining. How are you keeping yourself fit? How are you keeping yourself mentally motivated for your next chapter of your career?
Like, my motivation is my wife's like 6 months pregnant now, so that's like one of my motivations I have in my head, that when I'm doing whether I'm in the gym doing some stuff on the treadmill, whether I'm down on the football pitch doing a couple of tough runs with whoever it is, the fitness people that I know around here looking after me. So that kind of have that as my motivation, that I'd like to make sure I'm as fit as I can and not cutting corners for when the time comes when hopefully I have a little one and then get to see me play somewhere, hopefully.
Was a strange life.
Yeah, it's very strange. Isn't it?
One minute you're absolutely flying high at a club, the next minute you're looking for a next club. It's so unpredictable. It's such a evolving environment. It must take its toll on you after a while. You know, just dealing with the yes, the no's, and the knockbacks and everything that goes along with being in professional football.
I think, yeah, probably you hear a lot of people talk about the mental illness stuff in football and all that kind of stuff, and I think people on the outside just think, oh, well, you're earning X amount of money, like you're fine. Do you know what I mean? And this, that, and the other. But everyone's, no matter what you're earning, everyone's just human, aren't they? So everyone gets the same problem as everyone else, and has similar struggles. So doesn't matter if you're earning millions or not so much. You still can physically, mentally struggle and have difficult times. You're not immune to it. You know what I mean? So the football's no different. When you're getting knockbacks and stuff, that it does affect you mentally. But like I say, now luckily I've got a good family around me and good friends, and I've been there one last year. I'm kind of wiser for that experience now.
How have the PFA been with you through this situation? Because I know they haven't dealt with footballers being out of work during a pandemic, but how have they been with you? Have they been quite forthcoming with support and advice and stuff?
I'd say they are. I'd say the PFA gets mixed reviews of people. I've only got good things that I could say about them personally. Whenever I picked up the phone, whether it's to do my A license, which I'm doing now with my coaching, whether it's to do with a different kind of career opportunity or help getting a club, they've always been forthcoming and very answering on the phone to me and stuff. So in terms of speaking from me, I think they're probably doing as much as they can do right now for anyone, or they're definitely willing to help anyone out. So, but in terms of other people's, you can't speak for other people's experiences with them.
I know you're doing your coaching badges now. Within the next 5 to 10 years, are we going to see you make the transition and potentially go up the coaching or, dare I say, managerial pyramid? Are those things that you've been giving thought to?
No, definitely have, yeah. I think it's like anything at the start of football, you have to learn your trade early and get out early doors and start off more. And I think that's kind of what I'm doing now. I'm doing like the at Oldham, and I'm learning all the time about differently changing mentality from being a player to a coach. It's at the minute sometimes you speak as if, which I am, still a player, but I'm learning all the time about differently and how to be a coach and how to speak and put sessions on and stuff. And it is really good what I'm learning every time I do a session with them.
Think you could produce the next Chris Taylor, or dare I say Paul Scholes, from this under-12 academy at Oldham?
Yeah, probably slightly easier to produce the next Chris Taylor than a Paul Scholes. I don't think there'll be another one of him. He's one in a million, isn't he? I'd like to think so. In the group I'm coaching now, I've had these for about a year, and it's exciting when you see them progressing and you see them getting better over that period of time. There's nothing more frustrating than I've had lads that you've had for a year now, or 18 months, and they haven't progressed, or they've gone backwards. But in the majority of the group, when you see a young lad enjoying his football and improving weeks and the months ahead, it's very exciting.
It must be great for young players at Oldham when they've got someone like yourself who's Oldham through and through, who loves the club, who loves developing clubs. To have someone like yourself in a position to give knowledge back must be great for a young player, seeing the pathway that you've had at Oldham and then thinking, well, if Chris can do it, I surely can go on to do
it. You'd think so, wouldn't you? I know when I was that young lad, and people that had been in the game and done stuff in the game when I was a young lad, first thing I'd do was listen to them and listen to the advice that you give them, because it's kind of vital in your pathway. Because people that have been there and done it, and gone and had careers, that's what you, as young lads, you're wanting to aspire to do. So I think most of them listen and learn very well. You get some of them that are just typical kids that just don't listen, just want to run off and kick the ball around or mess about with the mates, and there's some of them, and you just got to think sometimes of kids and just let them be. But other times, I think you need to just tell them that they need to listen better and have more aware of what the coaches are saying. But it's frustrating because they are just kids and just want them to be kids at times.
What does the future hold for yourself at present? Where are you currently, and what's going on in your life?
Currently, again, just keeping active, keeping fit, speaking to clubs regularly. So I'm hoping there's been some more positive talks recently. So I'm hoping in the next too distant future I'll be back playing somewhere soon. So kind of that's the near future. The long-term future, hopefully, I keep learning and progressing in the coaching, that you never know, I would like to become a manager one day, definitely. I think it's definitely something that interests me, and definitely think something that I could do.
You've had a very interesting career journey. If you could change one thing in your career, a decision that you made or didn't make, possibly, what would that decision be, Chris?
Probably not a decision, more so, because you can't regret any decisions. I think you made them at the time for a reason. I think if the one thing I could change, it would be just one of the games I played at Wembley for Millwall, just to experience one of the win. It's like, it would just, when you just see people winning at Wembley, just the excitement, the buzz, how good that feeling would have been. I just wish that I won one of them. But so if I ever get a chance to play at Wembley again, I just hope I win.
You seen the film Groundhog Day?
Say that again.
Have you ever seen the film Groundhog Day?
No, I don't think I have.
It's a proper old film. Basically, the man repeats one day in his life over and over again. If I could give you one day of your footballing career to repeat as your Groundhog Day, what day would that be?
Okay. When I played at Anfield twice, just when you walk out, and I think of both night-time games, one for Oldham and one for Blackburn, and that you never walk comes on and the full stadium are singing it. Like, the first time when I went with Oldham, I literally thought that, Liverpool only playing Oldham, Liverpool fans will only be about 10,000 of them. There probably won't hardly be anyone here. And like, I think I was stunned at how many. It was around 45,000 singing it, like as if it was just a normal Champions League night or something. And I've never felt like the hers standing on the back of the net as much as when I walked out that first time there. It was proper, like. Liverpool lads must have some kind of buzz when they walk out to that every day, every game.
I've got to say, I've thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you today. It's been a great pleasure to go over some of your career. I know you're still actively playing, so we may have to do an add-on of this if you end up lifting an FA Cup or something. You might get that big Wembley moment yet. You never know.
And then you'll World Cup and realise you're not on Zoom.
Thanks ever so much for your time today, mate. It's been a great pleasure.
No, thank you for having us. Cheers. And I wish Millwall and everyone all the best.
I'm sure all the Millwall fans that watch these videos will be loving that. And hopefully it's not too long before people can get back to games. It's a huge loss for the community, and people realise just how much a club is involved in the community. I'm sure it's the same with Oldham. It's a big hub for everyone. It's not just the football, it's the social aspect, the well-being, the mental side of it. All goes hand in hand when you access these sort of clubs, you know.
Yeah, I think when the fans at every club go back, I don't think they'll be taking it for granted just when how long they've been away from it. And I think it goes with the players as well, how much. Obviously, I'm not playing at this second, but I speak to lads regularly and how difficult and different it is playing with no fans and how much important they actually play a game on a match day and stuff. So, yeah, I think everyone just wants the sooner everyone can get back in having a normal Saturday at 3 p.m. the better.
Indeed. Chris, thank you ever so much for your time. I look
Thank
forward
you.
to catching you again soon. Thank you, sir.
No top man. Cheers, Bob.